harmony. It's not all chaotic. If we're all chaotic, the world would fall apart. Over enough time, things tend to harmonize and synchronize with one another. Now, in this, I have gone beyond science. This is clearly in the domain of mysticism. Everything makes a sound, and more complicated things make more complicated sounds. If you hear a cricket in the grass, it might make that chirp, chirp, chirp sound. But a bird is somewhat of a more complicated animal, and you can hear them sing really complex little trills and patterns. And a human is a more complex creature. They can make very complicated sounds, like I'm doing now. It's the same with your fundamental energy, the sound that your fundamental energies make, whether you're a mosquito or a grasshopper or a gazelle or a bird or a human. Your energies have a frequency. They have to, because if they weren't a stable pattern, you'd poof and disappear. Right? You're a stable pattern, you exist. A stable pattern means there has to be a repeating time. A repeating time is a frequency. Frequency can be interpreted as sound. You have a frequency. You have a sound. Everybody and everything does. And mystics have talked about this for a long time. And your more advanced physicists talk about this. I have read books, both nonfiction and science fiction, about the song that stars sing as they burn their elements and basically are giant, dense furnaces. They produce a series of frequencies, and that frequency changes over time. Solar flares, sunspots, these kind of things will modulate the frequency they're making. And over enough time, you can hear it as a song. Right? Stars sing, people, their energy sings. Cats, dogs, birds, bees, everything has a frequency. And for it to work together, most of you understand that this world has an ecosystem. It doesn't have random animals tossed in random places. This animal eats that plant, and this bug eats that plant, and this animal eats that bug, and so on. It's an ecosystem. It's an interwoven system where all the pieces work together. Well, by definition, by the very structure of it, if the things that are stable, repeating patterns are working together, then their stable, repeating patterns are working together. That is, the sounds they are making are harmonious. Now, let me sidestep slightly. For those of you who are confused by this, those of you who are annoyed by it, just tune it out. Those of you who are confused by this, these aren't sounds that you can hear with your ears. You don't go, C sharp, that's a mosquito. Your ears simply don't have the range. Some of you have been able to see things in your life, to see energies. And if you think back to that experience, the vast majority of the times, you weren't seeing it with your eyes like you might a frog or something sitting in front of you. You don't see it as a physical thing. It's sort of parallel to seeing, but different. It's a little more subtle. It's like you half close your eyes, or you get a glimpse out of the corner of your eye, then you focus on it, and it's gone. Right? There's a subtle level of perception that mirrors, that is an analog to the physical perceptions. So the physical eyes, they lock on and they focus and they reflect light. But if you're seeing an energy, your energy isn't reflecting light. Right? It's something different than actual seeing. And you may get a feeling about something. Right? And sometimes that feeling is a pain in your guts, or a spike that hits you right here. Sometimes it's a physical feeling. But other times it's just a sense. Right? I have a sense that you're going through something. I have a sense that you have a big unprocessed sadness. Right? I don't feel somebody poking my body. Oh, that's my she has a sadness spot. It's a subtle analog of physical feeling. You can sense something and just know it. Just an idea comes into your head. But see, that's actually a subtle analog of thinking. You're not, right, this caused that caused that. Logically, it must be this, right, I've got it all figured out, here's your thing. You just, all right, somehow I know this, and so I'll tell you. The meta-perceptions, meta, the Greek, meaning over, above, beyond. The meta-perceptions are over, above, beyond the physical perceptions. So, a lot of books and such on the market say, oh yeah, everybody can see energies, just do this. You know, here, look at this square. And many people try this and say, I have no meta abilities, and they throw it away. They get frustrated because they don't see like little bugs flying around your head or little clouds of smoke around your body. The books mislead you. It's not a physical seeing. It's a subtle analog of physical feeling. And all of the physical senses have subtle analogs, not just the five senses, but proprioception and, I don't know, there are 13 or 15 different recognized senses. All of them have meta-level, subtle analogs that you can use. And some people are very good with hearing, and some people are better with seeing, and some people just blurt it out, and when they do, truth comes out that way. Hearing the music of the stars, hearing the music of the plants and the trees, it's not like you can put your ear against the bark. I think I hear the tree singing. It doesn't work like that. In the same way that you'd have to soft focus your eyes and look around a person to try and see their energy, in that same way you have to learn to soft focus your ears. You soft focus and hear sort of above sound or below sound. It's a meta level, a subtle level. And anybody can do it in the same way that pretty much anybody can see. I mean, there are people who are born blind and made blind by accidents, but the vast majority of humans can see. It's the same with this. The vast majority of humans can use this meta hearing. Right? Most of you, probably almost all of you, can do it. The only thing that will stop you is if you make the mistakes people make with these books on seeing. I don't see anything, I just see a person. If you try that, I don't hear anything. Where's this music? Turn it up. That kind of effort, that kind of focus will actually take you out of it. It takes a soft focus, like soft focusing with the eyes, like kind of putting your eyes out of focus and looking at something so it's fuzzy. It takes a soft focus of your awareness. You soft focus your awareness and then imagine that that tree is making a song, that that plant is making a song. You soft focus, you imagine it. And as you do, as you relax and really get in your guts, deep in your guts, and listen to this, you'll begin to sense things. And at first it'll be just a vague impression. At first it'll be just, oh, maybe there's something there, but I'm not sure. And so it's something you've got to do again. Let me imagine this. And it's something you've got to do again and again. And as you do, as you imagine and focus, you'll begin to notice that I'm imagining a sound for this tree and I'm imagining a sound for that tree, but they're different. Right? This tree always, I imagine it sounds like this. And that tree always sounds like they're different. If I were just making it up, how can those trees be different? And every time I go back, that tree's the same and that tree's the same. What you're going to find, because the meta-perceptions come from the same part of the mind as imagination. So when kids are seeing ghosts or monsters under the bed and the parents say you're making it up, it's part true. Because the meta-awareness comes from the same set of processes as imagination. So to develop this hearing, if you wish to do it, you begin with the imagination. You imagine the sounds that things make. And you listen to those imagined sounds. And it's a thing to be patient with. It's not a thing you can pin down or wrestle with and force. Now, Roja has a natural gift with hearing. She finds it very easy. She can pick up a cheese and tell you if it's good or not by the sound it makes. Right? She can hear her cats talking to her. She's got a natural gift with hearing that not everybody does. So if you want to learn this, or if you have questions, she's the person to ask. And if you hear it, you can just walk up and say, hey, help! And if you're not, then you can use one of the many meta technologies, the internet technologies, to communicate with her. And you can talk to your teachers, and by all means talk to one another. Set up a Skype chat with others. Right, last time you talked to Rain, she's Storm now. Storm, she was sitting under a tree outdoors. Right, nothing stops you from doing something like that. Get in touch with someone. All right, you're sitting under the tree. What do you hear? And you can see if you can tune in through the internet and maybe pick something up. You don't have to be physically together to work together. So what I want you to understand is that everything has a frequency. Because it's a moving pattern of energy, that frequency can be interpreted as sound, therefore everything has a sound. The earth is an ecosystem. It's not random parts. The pieces all fit together perfectly. And where they don't, species die out or landscapes radically change. Right? So, for that to be true, those sounds and those patterns of sounds have to work together. And together they make a kind of music. If every tree is making a note or a simple song, and every bird is making a song, and the grass has got a song as it's growing, and a given rock will likely have a sound. The real small ones you might not notice, but if you can find a really huge boulder, just hang out with it for a little while. You begin to sense something. Right? All the different pieces are making sounds because they have stable frequencies. And those sounds together make a song. Now, how many of you know who J.R.R. Tolkien is? Pretty much everybody. Good. Lord of the Rings. Since it's movies, everybody's heard of it. Now, the Lord of the Rings is 3 big fat books that take a long time to read. I had a teacher give them to me when I was 12. And I read them the first time. Actually, it's 4 if you include The Hobbit. Right, so 4 huge books that take about that much room on a shelf in paperback. Right? There's another book. It's called the Silmarillion. And if you read the Silmarillion, all of the stuff that happens in all of those books happens in less than 3 pages in the Silmarillion. It's the entire history of the universe told from the Tolkien perspective. From when it way back when it began up until, I don't know where it ends because I never finished it. And see, that book starts with the story of creation as Tolkien understands it. And I mention this one because as I remember it, his is the closest human account I have found to what I remember from way back when it all started. Tolkien is so close to exactly right. It's astounding. And so he talks about the creator source just sitting there alone and then singing the song. And in that song he creates the first of these major powers, these angels. And each one of them is made to play a particular instrument or sing a particular song. It's all metaphor because they're not physical. Right? They're huge, subtle bodies, huge patterns of energy. But these huge patterns of energy making their particular frequencies, their stable patterns of energies. And he talks about them learning to play independently and developing disharmonies between groups and then resolving and coming back together. And the entirety of the universe is made up out of this song. Now, if that seems esoteric and weird, I want to take you back to the physics. Physics says that everything is made up of stable patterns of energy. And some of those patterns of energy carry across vast distances. that it is a larger, stable pattern of energy. Somebody fix the cat. It is a larger, stable pattern of energy that exists across the galaxy. Now, if you read any of the modern physics, well, as modern as you guys have gotten so far, like string theory, in order to make string theory work, they can't have just 3 dimensions like you folks do, right? Up and down, left and right, back and front. Some of these have 13 or 17 or 22 different dimensions. So what I want you to understand is this huge pattern of energy that underlies everything, right? Every pattern, every sun, every star, every comet, quasars and pulsars or whatever else is out there, they all are stable patterns of energy, which means they all make a sound, or more specifically, more fundamentally, they are a sound. That is, they are a stable pattern of energy. That energy can be interpreted as a sound. Everything out there is a sound. Even in, say, the Christian tradition, their God speaks the world into being. It is sound that does it. In many different religious traditions, this is true. In the Hindu, it is the primal Om, the fundamental sound that sets all of creation in motion. And this isn't metaphor. Everything that exists is a stable pattern of energy. Patterns of energy are frequency. Frequencies are sounds. Everything has a sound. And see, for those sounds to work on such a large scale, there has to be some kind of harmony weaving it all together, or it would be chaos. Right? Let go of the large scale for now and zoom into just this little world. For this world to exist, there need to be harmonies amongst the various sounds, or it would tear itself apart. Not just animals, crustal plates as they shift, the magnetic field around the core of the earth, all kind of things. They all have to work together, or the system would break down. So there is, each of these things, not so much it makes a sound, each of these parts of your world is a sound, and all those sounds together make a kind of song. They make a kind of magical energy. By magical here, I don't mean mystical, magical, Shazam kind of magic. I mean, it's magical in the way that watching a baby smile, or, watching the waves come in, or a sunset is magical. It's just vast and astounding and beautiful. The way that all of these different sounds fit together, it's magical, it's amazing, it's stunning. So, what I'm suggesting to you, and it's logical and must be, I'm not asking you to believe, I'm telling you logically, everything is patterns of energy. Your own science tells you patterns of energy have frequencies. Frequencies are sound. Everything makes a sound. I'm telling you this. This is not question. Right? Even your primitive science in this world knows this. But what I'm telling you that your science doesn't know is that you can begin to sense those sounds for yourself. You can begin to hear that music. And you can do it with people. You can do it with your pets. You can do it with cheese. Everything has a frequency. And so anytime you're sitting there, you can just kind of tilt your head to one side and half close your eyes and say, what does that sound like? And just kind of imagine it and let your imagination go a bit and see what comes up. And then do it with something else and do it with something else. And at first you may not get clear results, but do this for a week, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, and you're going to find that you're always getting the same sound out of the same kind of cheese, out of the same tree, out of the same table, out of the same cats. You may find as you're doing this, you begin to hear your cats talking to you. Because the meta-sense that lets you hear this underlying music is the same one that Roja uses when she listens to her cat talking. And it's a sort of logical and obvious extension, though I'm not telling you it's true. I'm just saying it's a logical extension here, that if you can hear the cats thinking at you, and someone else can hear the cats thinking at you, then you should get to a place where you can hear each other thinking at you. Which means that the idea of mental telepathy, which was science fiction or fantasy not that long ago, is becoming a reality in your world. It's not far off, distant future. People are doing it now. Many of you have either experienced it yourself or you've watched one of your teachers do it. You just thought that. I heard you. This mental telepathy is becoming a reality. It will be as real as spoken communication in not that many years. And eventually, remote communication won't require things like cell phones if you can just reach out and tap someone with a meta-perception. But that's still, a ways in your future. So these are side benefits of learning to hear this music. You can talk to your pets. You can hear your pets talking back. They don't usually say much that's interesting, but sometimes it's fun. You can listen to the trees. You can hear other people's thoughts sometimes. You don't get inside and steal their thoughts. It's not like that. It's more like people walking around going, "I'm grumpy." And you hear them say, "I'm grumpy." "Are you grumpy? How did you know?" "Well, you just said it." Right? So all you're doing is hearing the stuff they're broadcasting. You're not violating anyone's privacy. And you can work it with specific pieces. If you're trying to figure out what's wrong with someone, if someone's unhealthy, you can try listening to different parts of their body. Right? Let me listen to their kidneys. Let me listen to their lungs. I don't mean you put your ear against it and listen to the blood moving through it. It's the same meta hearing. And you can say, when I listen to their kidneys, I sense something that's buzzy, or I sense something, the note is flat, or something's wrong. It's okay. Maybe it's your kidneys, and then you can encourage them to drink cranberry juice, or something with drink lots of water, maybe things like that, or even go to a doctor if you trust doctors. But see, you can do that with hearing. Just about anything you can imagine, you can use this for. If you do construction or work with your hands, you can actually listen to the sound that the thing is making before you drive a nail or screw a screw or cut a piece of wood or whatever. One of the great sculptors of this world said, when asked, "How do you bring these amazing things out of hunks of rock?" And he said, "I don't." He said, "I listen to the rock. I listen to the stone and see what's there, and then I just chop away all the useless bits." Your great artists have known this for a long, long time. Your best physicists know this. Many other scientists, chemists, will talk about the sound of various things, the sound of a cesium atom. So your most brilliant people, your most creative people have known about this for a long time. What I'm telling you is that the sound is available to you. You can begin to hear it. You can begin to play with it today. And if you're a really good sensor, maybe you'll do better and maybe not. There is no reason to think that if you're a shaper, you can't do this. Right? Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, your eyes and ears are working. Right? That means your meta sensors are working too. Just because you're a shaper doesn't mean you can't sense. Just because you're a sensor doesn't mean you can't shape. You may not be as good as a sensor, and a sensor won't shape as well as you do. Or if they do, you're doing something wrong. But you can still do it. Any one of you can do this right now. Because if you're aware, and I imagine that none of you are yet this aware, if you're aware, I never just talk to you. When I'm doing this, I'm weaving energies. Because there's information your brain can hear and process, but there are subtler things that are below the level of what your conscious mind could handle. and I can hand them to your subconscious. And there are higher level things that who knows if you'll even get to a place in this lifetime where you can think about them. But there is a more aware part of your mind up there that can think about it. And so I'm weaving those as I talk. Those of you who are here will see me talk and act perfectly normal, but then I finish and, I have to struggle to breathe for a while because I put so much energy into doing this. So you can do this right now. In addition to listening to my words, you can listen to the deep stuff that I'm putting under the words or the high stuff that I'm putting over the words. It's a kind of symphony, perhaps. Several different levels of communication all at once. So you can practice it now. And I encourage you, if you wish to know more about this, to practice it tonight. It's useful to go outside. Go out, stand on your balcony, go out, stand outside the door of your apartment or your house. And just listen to the night, listen to the ground, listen to the trees. And you can listen to traffic or car horns honking or sirens, wind blowing. And you can listen to all this and hear it as music. That's cool. That's an awesome thing to do. It can be fun. There's an entire movie based on this idea with some amazing music. But this isn't what I'm talking about. It's not physical hearing. It's the subtle meta-analog. You can practice this tonight or whatever time of day it is. You can listen. And if you've got a part of your body that's hurting, listen to it. Right? Say your knee's hurting. Listen to it. I don't mean talk to it. Hey, what's wrong with you? Speak up. I mean subtly listen to the frequency, to the stable pattern of energy, to the sound. And say, it sounds like this. And in time, you'll find this is astoundingly useful. That listening to it, you can say, I hear what's wrong. There's this in the sound, or there's that, and there shouldn't be. And you can tune it by sound, the same way you might tune a piano. Right? Hit a key, torque it a little bit. Tune a guitar. You can retune parts of your body this way. So I'm suggesting to you, I want you to understand that this is a phenomenally useful thing. This being able to hear. And I encourage you to begin to see if you can hear small things in nature. A tree, an animal, grass. Because if you can get yourself to a place where you can hear the small pieces of nature, then you can jump to a place where you can hear two trees at the same time. You've got 2 ears, you can do 2 trees. And while you're doing it, if you can broaden your awareness to hear 2 trees at the same time, and you do that for long enough, you're going to start picking up other things in the background. I'm hearing all kinds of stuff. And as you do that, you start hearing more and more. You can begin to pick up the song, the sound, the pattern of frequencies of many things in an area and how they work together. And see, with that kind of awareness, once you've got it, you can hear more than one thing. You can kind of let yourself sink down. Just imagine sinking down deep into the earth, way, way down deep inside, and listening. Just listening with the same kind of meta sense to the sound that the earth is making. And what you'll find is that the earth is a big place, and you can't expand your senses big enough to hear all of it. You stick with this long enough, or I'll teach you how, but right now I doubt any of you can. You can begin to hear the song of the earth. And see, while a tree makes a noise, and a bird makes a noise, and grass makes noise, and so on, for all those things to work, there has to be a deeper song underneath it. And I don't know if any of you will be able to perceive this, but there has to be a deeper thing that the birds and the trees and the grass and all are listening to. This deeper pattern is a bit like perhaps it's a bit like the bass guitar in music. Right? You can hear the vocalist blah 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 blah, and the lead guitar is doing all these fancy solos. But it's the bass line underneath. Boom, 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 boom. Right? It's this sound underneath. It's creating something that everybody listens to. And so no matter how fancy his or her solos get, the guitarist is still staying in tune. Not in tune, but in tempo. Staying connected with, playing along with the bass. Right? So there is a bass note, a deeper and more fundamental song that this world has. And you can, in time, if you wish, begin to sense that. This is what I talk about when I talk about the music. The music out there is changing. It's this meta sense of an audio interpretation of these repeating patterns of energy, but it's a layer deeper. It's the underlying song or set of frequencies that everything that you think of as life tunes to. This is the song. This is the one that you can, with practice, learn to hear. And it's much easier to do than it is for me to explain. Right here I've given all of these words, all this time spouting all this seeming nonsense. And all you got to do is go find a park someplace and sit by a pond or lean against a tree and just let yourself listen with the meta level listening. And you'll begin to sense this. And as you do, you sink down into an alpha and you'll get a richer sense of it. And if you can work into a deep alpha, you'll get more and more and more of a sense of this. And for those of you, probably most of you can't, but for those of you who get into a theta or even a really deep theta, I don't know if any of you can do that. But as you do, as you sink deeper, you'll get a richer and more powerful sense of this underlying song. And this isn't a song made by all the pieces of creation. This is the song of existence. This is the sound that everything that exists makes. This is a fundamental. If you want to learn to reshape the world, yeah, you can try curing somebody's warts or making their butt smaller or changing the color of their hair. But that's all surface stuff. If you can begin to hear this song, then you can begin to retune the things that are making those sounds. And you can shape at a far deeper and more powerful level. Some of you are aware of the work that I've done, that I and my group have done over the last year, the changes in the world. Most of that is done with sound. There's a quote hanging up by the coffee maker there that says, "This is math and music, which is magic." And that's not so strange. Any pattern of sound, frequency, is something that you can graph. And if you can graph it, then you can write an equation for it. It's math. That is, math and music are really different faces of the same thing. The biggest problem with human mathematics right now is that mathematicians have forgotten how to sing it. Right? They're a bit like musicians who have done music for thousands of years, passing the tradition down, but none of them play instruments. They just write the scores and say, "Oh, read this. This is a really nice song." And mathematicians of this world have forgotten this. If you read Asimov's Foundation series, some of you may have, there are a group of astounding mathematicians who map out the shape of reality mathematically. This idea is not strange to your authors, to your fiction, to your artists, to your musicians. What can be represented as music can be represented as math. And see if you can find it as either or as both. You can begin to change it. You can begin to retune it. You can begin to cause an instrument to make a slightly different noise in the deeper harmonies. And as you do this, you begin to reshape reality. Now, I don't imagine most of you are going to create new worlds or change the color of the sky. But in time, you can learn to heal a sick child, to fix a broken tooth, perhaps to change the color of your hair, make your butt smaller. You can reshape the physical because the physical is standing patterns of energy, which are frequencies, which is or can be described as music. So if you can begin to hear this, you can begin to change these things. And the work that we have done has been rewriting this song at a very deep level so that you may look outside and on the surface, the sky is the same color, grass is still growing. You may not see the changes, but the changes are astounding and fundamental. Your entire world has changed in the last year. Everything is different. And in 100 years you will see and you'll feel and smell and hear the results of these changes. But for now the results aren't coming up yet. We've changed the fundamental music, which means that plants are growing different. Chemical equations are moving slightly different. People's emotions are slightly different. The new children being born are growing up in that new energy, and they're slightly different. And they can do things that you couldn't 20 or 30 years ago. And so this fundamental, this music, perhaps is one of the most important things you can work with. Well, beyond black belt level, perhaps one of the most important things you can work with. Until you get there, though, you can practice hearing it. You can learn to hear it, and you can learn to sing it, or to use a drum and shape it with a drum, or play any musical instrument. Hum. You can learn to hear that music. You can learn to sing along or play along with it. And as you do, you can perhaps learn to add your own piece to it and change it in a little way. And this changing is recreating reality. And this is what eventually will be seen as obvious, but this is fundamentally magic. This is changing the world by your will. Someday it will just be seen as science, but for now it's abstract enough. It's effectively magic, learning to hear this music and singing with it. And you can learn to talk to your pets. Makes walks in the park a lot more fun. You hear what people are thinking. You ask them a question, right? What do you really think about me? And they go, you're fine. Right? But when you ask, they're thinking the answer. Oh, really? That's what you think? You might hear, I think you're a dork. You might hear, I really want to sleep with you. You might hear any of a number of things. Right? But you don't get to sense what's really going on. And it's kind of a cool benefit. And the thing is, it's not difficult to do. It takes, well, the biggest mistake you can make, as I said, is trying too hard to focus. I'm going to hear it if it kills me. Rah! That'll ruin it. It's, you make a guitar string work by plucking it. It's like pressing down on the guitar string with all of your fingers. I'm going to squeeze this thing until it starts making noise. And it's not going to make noise. You have to sit back and relax and just touch the string lightly. And then wait and listen to the sound that it makes. It's like that. It's an easy thing to do. The biggest mistake you can make is trying too hard. And the most important, say, 2 skills to apply in this are stubbornness. Do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again, and do it again. And in time, it's going to become easy. When you first took a step, just, one little step, you had somebody holding your hands, and you thought it was phenomenally difficult. And when you first started taking steps on your own, you fell on your butt, or you banged your head on the table, or, when you got a little older, you fell and skinned your knees. I mean, learning to walk and to run took you years of hard work. Think how useful it is. Right? If right now you had to crawl everywhere, let me crawl out the car and get in, drive to work, and then crawl into my office. Let me crawl through a supermarket. Oh, that'd be disgusting. Right? It would suck to have to crawl everywhere. But you can walk, right? And you can walk, well, most of you probably can. You can walk because you learned as a child and because you tried again and again and again. And when it didn't work, or when it fell down, or when your legs were too weak, I mean, look at a small child lying on its back, waving its arms and legs. It's trying to build up enough strength to do something. And the first time it can turn over, oh boy, that's such a big deal. It's managed to totally change its outlook on life. To go from here to here, or vice versa. And to the child, that's a huge deal. Right? But it takes a great amount of struggle to do it. And it takes years of work to become good at walking. And if any of you have studied dance or martial arts, or even long-distance running, competition bicycling, you'll recognize that you can put years more into it. You don't become a good dancer in a week. Not unless you find a genie in a bottle. Becoming a good dancer takes continually learning to walk, learning to do new steps, learning to move your feet, to balance. Right? So this process of becoming good at walking is a process of years. And this hearing shouldn't be different. You shouldn't try it once and say, okay, can't do it. Bugger that, I quit. You should try it and say, okay, well, I don't hear much, but I'll do it again tomorrow. Or, okay, now's a good time. I'm sitting here doing nothing. Let me see what I can hear. That's awkwardly said. Let me listen to what I can hear. And if you do this, I told you there are two characteristics. Right? The biggest one, perhaps, is stubborn. A willingness to keep going. Because you'll get better and better, but it will be in slow steps. And the other is, how to call it, perhaps gentleness. Some of you perhaps have seen those diagrams, there's big pictures. When you look at them, it's just a repeating pattern, and it just looks like noise. It's called a stereogram. I'm sure that you can Google it if you like. Stereogram or stereoscopic image. It just looks like noise. But if you stare at it long enough, you notice that some of the pieces seem to start to move, and suddenly you're seeing a 3D image in the noise. They're very carefully crafted so that binocular disparity, the difference in what the two eyes perceive, allow you to see very slightly shifted pixels in the image. So with care, you can see a 3D image pop out. If you look at one of those and go, I'm going to see this if it kills me, you will not ever see it. It doesn't happen. You've got to relax your eyes just right, kind of see through it till the thing pops out. And so that would be the second characteristic. It's something like gentleness. It's not something you can grab it and force it. And it's like grabbing a small animal, a kitten. You're going to like me. I'm going to hold you here till you do. That's not going to make a friend out of that kitten. Right? If you've read Saint-Exupéry, The Little Prince, the bit about taming a fox, it's that kind of idea. It takes gentleness and patience and repetition. So be a little understanding with you. I have a feeling that if you folks work at this, most of you, if you work on this several times a day, within a week you're going to start hearing things. Within a month, you'll be surprised at how much richer your life has gotten. You're hearing all of these different sounds all the time. And so it's not going to take as long as you think. Now to become really good, to hear the subtle things, the song below the song, the deep stuff, so that you can sing them or retune them. This could take you years of work. Right? But just to begin to hear, it's not so much. Especially if you have those two characteristics. Something like gentleness and stubbornness. I'm going to keep doing it. Those two fight with one another. Right? When you get stubborn, I'm going to do it if it kills me, you tense up. And then you lose the gentleness. And you get all gentle and relaxed. Oh, okay, I don't care if I get it done. You lose the stubborn. Right? Many years ago, I started in the Midwest and drove a truck across the United States, across the Mississippi, across all the big flat states, out through the mountains to California. And a friend said, hey, as long as you're going out, you want to tow my car out there? My sister needs it. I thought, no big deal. Attach it to the truck, it won't make a difference. Well, what happened is, with the car towing behind, the truck wouldn't go over a very slow speed. And what should have been, 3 days of driving turned out to be 5 or 6, especially through the mountains, because the truck's just barely crawling up the hills. And I was so exhausted, driving day after day after day. Some nights I didn't stop and sleep, I just kept going. I was so exhausted, drinking caffeine, buzzing. Up in the mountains I couldn't breathe because the air was so thin. I grew up in the flatlands, top of the Rocky Mountains or whatever it is out there. I was having trouble breathing. My body was freaked out and panicked. Couldn't get enough air, and I was exhausted. And when I first started down the slopes into California, the truck is picking up way too much speed now because the car's pushing it. All right, and I'm too exhausted to think straight. And what I find is that almost the entire way down, there's a road, and then there's a drop that looks like about, I don't know, a lifetime. This far off the side of the road. It's not like you could pull over on the shoulder. Right? You're looking down and, this little barricade that's about this high, and you go over it, you drop to your death. There's no apology here, no room for error. And it was in this particular trying situation where I had this car pushing me down this hill, and I had no idea what to do, and I was so exhausted because I'd gone 5 days and hardly slept at all, and Dramamine or whatever the yellow pills are. No, Dramamine is sickness, but the little yellow speed pills and caffeine to keep going. And going down there, I was just a kid, but I discovered something magical. Almost made it worth the entire trip. See, I had studied lots of meditation and stuff. I'd read lots of books and learned to relax. And I had done martial arts and lots of different sports, so I learned to focus and concentrate. But for me, they were totally different things. Right? Over here, there's relaxed. No concentration at all. Over here, intensely focused. Right? I could sit down for 16 hours and work at a computer. I could write code that nobody else could figure out how'd you make that work? That's art. That's poetry. It's amazing, right? I could do martial arts or sports or whatever with this intense concentration. But I wasn't relaxed. And I'm deep in computer land. You can tap me on the shoulder. I'm likely to reach out and smack you before I realize you're there. What? I was young and angry. All right, so intensely focused or intensely relaxed, I could do both. But to me, it was a curve like this. You could be up here or you could be up here, but nothing existed in between. Going down that mountain, I found that there was a magic place between. A place where you can be in your guts, grounded, breathing, completely relaxed. Let your body relax, your muscles relax, your awareness is relaxed, so you're not focused on anything, but at the same time intensely focused, almost hyper-focused, just intensely aware. So relaxed and focused at the same time. Now this idea is going to be a complete mystery to most of you, I imagine. But here's how you do it. You get yourself focused. and then you relax. And you get yourself focused, and then you relax. And you go back and forth between these two. And as you can do it, traverse back and forth, eventually you'll begin to sense a narrow sliver in there where there's this magical place. And in that magical place, you are more relaxed than you are relaxed, and you're more focused than you are focused. And this is something that you basically have to take my word exists until you find it for yourself, because it's not something anybody can easily describe to you. But any of you can do it. Again, it's not magic, it's just a matter of doing it till you find it. This skill for learning to hear the music is like that relaxed focus. You want to be intensely focused and determined. I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going, I'm going to hear this, I can do this, I can hear this. Right? Keep imagining, keep working, and at the same time very gentle and relaxed and patient. You want them both. It's like the relaxed focus, very stubborn and yet very gentle. And until you find that magic space in the middle, it's okay to go back and forth. I'm going to go to the park and hear something. Right? And you get there and you relax and relax. I'm going to do some more of this hearing. Then you relax. Right. You can go back and forth. That's fine. As long as you have both. If you can do this in a very, very short time, you'll begin to hear the music. It's not mysterious. It's not strange. It's science. It's obvious. It's inherently requisite. Everything must have a frequency. And if you could scale that frequency down till it was within human hearing, it would be a pitch that you could hear. So you can take any set of things that have a frequency, and everything that exists has a frequency. You can scale them down into the range of human hearing, and it's music you can hear. Or you can scale your meta hearing up to where it can pick them up without having to retune them down to a much lower octave. It's not complicated. And it's not magic. It's requisite, fundamental science, life, experience. It's what everything, your butt and the chair it sits on, it's what everything is made of. These patterns of moving energy. And if you try, if you're willing, and you keep trying, as I've suggested, you can learn to hear them. Good night.